Hi and welcome to Homo Ludens, the channel history and board games. And I'm here today with Besime and Jon from MinIon Games, or MinIon Game Design. Sorry, I always get this wrong, which is a company that we like quite a bit on this channel because they have been publishing a lot of PAX games, but also other very interesting historical games that you've seen featured on the channel. And one announcement that you made a couple of weeks ago created a lot of excitement in the sphere of historical gamers, and that was your Minion subscription program. And the proposal or the idea is to have one game each month, a mini game for $19 a month. I don't know how that is in euro, but I guess that's probably more or less the same. And a lot of people were like, didn't expect that. I don't think I've ever seen a board game publisher doing a subscription model like this that looks like a digital software kind of program, which is quite surprising for physical objects. And yeah, a lot of excitement, especially as you announced that those might be some smaller versions of games that people really love. So I wanted to have both of you on to talk about it and take the opportunity to have a bit of an update on what's up with MinIon Game Design and what's coming in the pipeline. Thanks, Besime and Jon, for taking the time talking to me. Before we jump into Minion, I wanted to ask to the two of you, how was Essen, and was there anything specifically exciting that you saw over there? When we can start with you, Besime.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I always love being there, especially meeting the players live. Otherwise, it's so much online, so I really enjoy being there. And we had a great Essen this year. Our game Dino Dynasty got so great feedback from the players, both the ones that knew about it since before and also the people that just came by. And of course, it's about dinosaurs. Who doesn't love dinosaurs? So I
Exactly.
thought it was great.
Yeah, that's a home run for me. Like
Yeah.
dinosaurs, awesome. So yeah, Dino Dynasty, quite a lot of excitement around this one.
Yeah.
Also, can you tell us a bit about the game itself? What it looks like, what it plays like?
Mm. It's designed by Jon, so I think he can tell you much more about it. But it's illustration by Johan Egerkrans, who's a well-known illustrator here in Sweden, at least, but also the rest of Europe, I would say. But Jon
Great.
can tell you more about the design behind
But
it.
yeah, Jan, before you talk about your Essen experience, can you tell us a bit about Dino Dynasty?
Yeah, so Dino Dynasty is each player is a dynasty of dinosaurs. So when you choose your player color and stuff, you get a bunch of 3 to 5 dinosaur species that you can choose between, and then you play on a map which is modular. So you start with just a few tiles, and then as you explore, the map grows, and the map is common for all players, of course. So you explore together. It's aimed to be a bit easier, more for a game interested family setting rather than the hardcore gamers. So it's 10 years and up. And you only have 4 actions to choose between, which is attacking or spreading. But you can also evolve your species, and you can move your species. It's almost in PAX style. You have win conditions at the end, but you don't. It's not win when you get it. It's rather than you have the win conditions, but the one who completes the most at the end wins the game.
And it reminded me of like when I was looking at the preview, I was like, oh, it's a bit like a family version of Dominant Species, in a way. I don't know if you've
Yeah. We haven't really looked at dominant species when we did this, but I see your point there. Yes, that's true.
But I'm really excited about it. I love dinosaurs, so I mean, yeah, of course I'm excited about it.
Yeah,
but
exactly. And
but
as Besim said, I think many people who came and bought it. It sold out the first day, and I think many people who came and bought it didn't know about it. They just saw it and grabbed it. So it caught the attention also from.
I mean, those dino meeples must have played a role. they're pretty cute. Yeah.
You get unique dino shapes.
Yeah, and so, but I was also wondering. So, what was Essen for you, Jan? Did you see anything that got you super excited, or it was mostly focusing on doing game demos and just interacting directly with players?
for the most part, I was in the booth for some degree, and I was around doing meetings. I did not do many demos this year, and I haven't done the last couple of years because it's more meetings and those things. Well, I also think the Essen was great, probably our best Essen. Not that any part of our presence there or the things we did was, super good, but nothing was bad. Everything worked. The game arrived in time. The team had a great time. We had, things were selling out. It's just a smooth and very good experience through and through. I think one thing we have an activity and which I enjoyed, which was our secret society. We have a secret society at Essen, no, at Ion. It started with the Pax Illuminati, and then there's sometimes, quite rarely, there's a chance to get into the secret society. And this time it was a treasure hunt. So you had to go, or you had to find clues in different booths all over the fair, following some leads, and anybody who completes that gets to get into the secret society. And completing these challenges wherever we have them now and then is the only way to get into the society. And if you get in, it's a permanent lifetime membership.
So it's a game. You gamified a game convention, which is
We gamified the game convention. That's exactly what we did.
That's pretty clever. Now that we've talked about Essen, mostly why we're here today is to talk about MinIon. And I wanted to start asking you, Besime, so what's the idea behind MinIon? I was really wondering, it's a very different model, and I was wondering what potential you saw in doing like a subscription-based model. What gave you the idea of trying something like this?
You want new games, like a lot of times, and it's so we wanted to give possibilities to get these new games without them being big. So MinIon or MinIon Games are small boxes, and then instead of just trying to find new games, you get this every month home to you. It doesn't cost so much. It's a small game. It goes fast to play them, and also it's a great way to get to know our games and get other people like your friends or your family to get known our games, and as a gateway to go into our bigger games. So that's why we did a subscription. However, so it is a subscription, but every 6 months, when the subscribers have gotten their games, it will also be sold as bundles. So those people that are not into the mystery of what is getting, they will be able to see all the 6 games that have come out and then make a decision if they want the 6th game. So that's why we have the subscription.
So a big idea behind it is to promote the bigger versions of
Yes.
those games. I guess you're gonna have some PAX games. So you're trying to cover the whole line, both the because you've got historical games, science game, and Earth-based game, where it's still scientific and somewhat historical too, but it is its own category. So are you gonna try to cover your whole line?
Yes, we are. And we have some of the games we already have gone out with, which they are, because not everybody wants complete secrecy. So we have Dino Dynasty is one of the games that is actually in the MinIon as well, even if it's a new. We have Pax Hispanica, it's also coming, and Pax Viking. And then Third Crusade is another game that is in the MinIon Games as well. So it's a kind of a mix of all our games.
Okay, so that's really exciting. I think the idea of mini PAX games is something that gets me super hyped. so that's really good. And I think the question I have is, how do you go from like those big involved games? Because I haven't played PAX Hispanica yet, but I know the PAX series quite well. And I was wondering, how do you miniaturize this? What do you cut? What do you keep? How do you make this a smaller design? What's the design process behind it to go from something big to refine it to something that holds in a small box? Is it just the same rule set, but you have less components, or are you simplifying the game to make it just like a small introduction? How does this work?
So I can say little things about this. We have chosen to take a certain little part of the game and build a mini game around that part. So the game will play. I mean, definitely recognize that part of the game. We have the same kind of components that you find in the core game, but you will play this little part of the core game, and that will be in a new way. So apart from making the game small, which also is appreciated by our players, they want small games that you can just bring along and play as a filler. We also wanted to make them less complex, so it's a good way for new players or for existing players to introduce new players using them. So they typically around 2 in complexity, 2 to 2.5, so less complex. And we have the same kind of components in the same. They look exactly the same because we want to use these games also as a promo. So in each of the MinIon games, there are some components and some part of the rules in these MinIon games that you can use inside the core game if you own the core game to enrich that in some way.
That's really interesting because, like, for people like me, this kind of system becomes a way for me to engage with other players that might be frightened a bit by
Exactly.
those bigger games. So that's a quite interesting approach.
And
Does
also,
this
if you own the games yourself already, you will actually get something to use in the big game when you play the big experience as well. You have some new components going into it.
Okay, so it's also an addition to the existing game. So, for example, if I get the mini version of Pax Hispanica in this, on top of having a mini version of the game, I will also have some extra content for Pax Hispanica.
So, some parts of the MinIon game, that's one of the design goals for the whole thing, that some part of the MinIon game should also be possible to use in the core game that it's based on.
And how did you guys approach it? Did you ask each designer to work on a minion version of their game, or do you have a dedicated team that is focusing on taking those big games and making mini versions of it in a consistent way? I was wondering what was the nitty gritty of the process behind it.
We had an internal team that played the original or have been involved in some ways in the original game as well, and they sat and did all the mini games or minions together, and it became a really good teamwork thing in the company as well. So we enjoyed it, and we think that will be shown in the mini games as well when they come out.
So you have this idea that it's going to start in January 2026 and end in December 2026. And I think a lot of question was raised. Whoa, that's 12 games a month on top of the already busy schedule from Ion Game Design. Are you guys ready to deliver one new game a month on top of what you're already doing?
Yes, we are, definitely. And the MinIon games are actually done because, as you said, the first game is coming out in January, so we needed to have it done. So the 12 games are coming and are ready.
And I think that's a big part of the thing is that you're going in there with already your 12 first game being made. So people shouldn't be worried about the delivery schedule because those games are already made. It's just a matter of shipping them to the consumers.
We are keeping them secret though because we want the mystery box approach to it somewhat, and we're doing a mix of it because we're releasing some of the titles and some are kept hidden and you can buy them afterwards if you prefer that and so forth. And any collaboration with the content creators or reviewers or such will have to be under the understanding that they are not allowed to write anything about the game until it's been delivered to the subscribers because they are supposed to get it first. But they will receive the game earlier probably.
Yeah, great.
I mean, the content creators, because as always, they need it earlier to be able to make content. So
you mentioned a few of the titles that you are doing a mini version of it. Is there one that each of you have a particular soft spot for, like one MinIon game that they are really excited to see into players' end? Without saying too much, we can maybe start with you, Besim.
Yes, I do. And since this is already online as well, I can say I'm excited to see how some come out because the MinIon game is also helping people to get into the big game. So it's like learning the basics. So it's going to be nice to see how the basics then, help the people to get into the main game, which is always difficult when you're writing rule books. How are you helping people? So I'm most excited for that one, of course.
Makes sense. And
Mhm.
you, Jan?
Yeah, well, I was thinking now when you asked, and we talked a little bit at the office. We all have our favorites and so forth in the team that did this.
Yeah.
And by the way, we also, you know, bounced this and
Hmm.
sometimes had help also from or input from the external designers if they were external designers in the base game. But the whole development process was run in a close knit team at the office of in our design team. But so we have our favorites, and yeah, I would say three of them are like maybe the ones I think is most fun to try out and see what people think about them. But I can't unfortunately say anything about the titles because all of those three are still in the mystery.
Oh, Jan, company
Yeah,
man, Jan. Fair enough. Well,
sorry.
but I think what we can do is in December 2026, we can reconvene and
Mhm.
talk about
Yeah,
our favorite ones. I would have played all of them by then, hopefully, so I would be also able to do this.
yeah,
I was thinking that actually doing like a tier list like system thing at the end to evaluate
yeah,
the whole
sure.
12 could be quite
Yeah.
fun.
I mean, we
Uh,
actually talked about that in here too. All in the office. Maybe we should have a little tier list, internally, just to see which one we like the most, and then compare that to whatever happens with people outside, what they seem to like the most.
I guess that's it for Minion for now. Really looking forward to the first game being released in January 2026. Do you know around what time the players are going to have it in their hands, this
They're
first
going to
game?
have it at the end of each month.
At the end of
So,
each month.
yeah.
Okay, perfect. So looking forward to that.
Mhm.
But
When a December game is the idea is that the December game comes before Christmas, though.
I guess we can also take a bit of time to talk about what's happening at Ion Game Design. And there's a few topics that I wanted to follow up with both of you because I had both of you on the show at different times to talk about different games, but we talked about some things that were happening at Ion Game Design, and I wanted to like follow up now, maybe a year or a couple of years later. The first thing that I was curious about was I think I discussed it with you, Besime, and at an earlier point with Jan, and that was your whole initiative around educational games, which in a way does in the intent reminds me of Minion in the sense that you're taking like your big games and making them more accessible, but to a different audience because that was mostly for kids and having a bit more educational content in it. I think the first one that was announced was PAX Viking Junior, and I was wondering, so what was the progress on that front? Are you happy with how things are going, and what kind of educational games we can expect in the future?
Yes, this is I work the most on this project at the moment, and the idea what has happened during this year is we have had a development and like a so we're using a way of work process system called design thinking for this, and then so we have been investigating how we want to do this, and we did it more structured this year. But it's really been, as you know, on our radar and developing slowly during the course of actually 2.5 years before this year. So come January, we've been working for 3.5 years in planning. And at the moment, the idea is that we should do a game, like develop a system for how to play our games in an educational setting, not playing them, but using them as a toolbox or sandbox to interact and be used in a school setting with preparation for the educators so that the investment in time is much less and that it is like realistically doable within a small class, many people, low knowledge about games, maybe short time span. So various things you can like say, this is my needs, this is how I need to use this. It's used in one time or over the course or so various way to do that and then write that system so it's applicable to all our games and I mean in theory also on any other game. But it might be like a box that helps you do this, and then if you have our games, you can apply them to this system of educational way of handling games.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it reminds me of my own professional experience working at Lego, because we had Lego education, and we also in the company had those kind of discussions. Like, it's not the same experience that you're offering. You need to have material for the educator, you need to make it fit within the classroom. So
Yeah.
there is a lot of reflection around the play experience is going to be radically different, because it has different objectives and it also has different settings. So I guess that's quite a challenge. And as you say, young people have different level of knowledge or comfort with board games, because they might
Yeah.
not come from families where board games are a thing, and you definitely have a discrepancy depending on people's background. So that's also quite a challenge.
I mean, we're a global player, or we sell globally. So you also have the faculty of different countries, and that's so much different from country to country how the educational system works and what kind of opportunities are there, as compared to board games, which works more or less the same all over the world. So that's different, and that's also something that needs to be factored into this system that we're building, so that it can be flexible enough to be useful for everything from middle school in Korea to homeschooling in the States. And maybe we really would like this to be something that spreads in areas where we are not present at the moment, and mainly maybe in front of all Africa, actually.
When do you expect that you're going to have some finalized educational product ready to be shipped?
Hopefully January 27.
Okay, January 27. And do you know in which areas of the world you're getting the most interest from?
So we have chosen a few markets during this development process to be the most interesting, and those markets are Sweden, obviously, but it's also Germany, Great Britain, Korea, India, South Africa, and homeschooling in the United States.
And do they have different forms of interest in terms of the kind of games that they're asking for? Is it more science-based or more historical? Do you have like also differences between the markets on
No,
that regard?
I would say the themes are not the difference does not come in themes. The differences comes in how that specific how the educational system is administrated, but also how pedagogy or the way you teach it differs from them. And we have chosen these for two reasons, because one is that there is an interest for or potential for games in the education for various reasons, and the other factor is that they are as different as possible. So we wanted to find now markets that are different in various ways. Also, actually, I forgot to say Thailand is another of those markets we have focused.
Okay. So it's actually quite spread across the world. So that's interesting. Europe, North America, South Africa, and some countries in Asia, and both South Asia, Southeast, and East Asia. So that's and always very different educational culture. So that must be quite a challenge. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is, and we have not taken Oceania yet, because that's kind of the same as any kind of Commonwealth. Or maybe that's a bad word, but like Great Britain is similarities. So in the second faculty there of trying to be as spread out as possible, then we haven't taken anything in Oceania at the moment as a focus, but of course we will. And the other where we're not having a focus at the moment is South America, and that's because of the problems of delivering to there. But we are outside of the educational sphere. We are having had this year some new very exciting collaborations with South American entities, which might make it easier for us to deliver our own games, but maybe in front of all also the educational stuff. So half a year from now, maybe there will be a focus country also in South America.
Okay, well, looking forward to it. I guess that in a couple of years from now, I'll invite you again to talk about it, because that's something, it's a topic that is really dear to my heart. So I'm really curious to see how it evolves. And to my knowledge, you're the only publisher that is invested so seriously in doing educational games in this way. So that's really an exciting prospect. Now I'm going to talk about something a bit more light. High Frontier 4 was released as a video game, and I'm always curious about the relationship between board games and video games. And I was wondering what made you want to develop a video game version of High Frontier? What kind of process did you had in place? So was it developed in-house? Did you have a partnership? Maybe we'll start with this, and I will ask my other questions. So how did you translate a board game, a big board game like High Frontier, to a video game format?
We wanted more people to find High Frontier, so that was one of the reasons. So the digital gaming world is so big, but I think there is like connection between board games and digital games. So that's why we also wanted to bring, for example, High Frontier to the market in digital form, and help both ways, both the board games and the digitals to help each other. So that's why we went in. High Frontier is a really complex and big game, so we didn't make it easy for ourselves to start with this game. The development has been going on for 3 years, and we did it in-house. The reason we did it in-house, because that's how we have made the board games section grow in our company. And we like that system, to have everything in the studio, both that you understand the game much more, because this is, as I said, a very complex game. So we needed people to really understand it as they were developing the digital version of the game. And hopefully, starting with the digital form, it will make it an easier step, just like we are doing with the MinIon, to make it an easier step into the board game, understanding the board game much more. So that was the aim.
That means that now you have a team in-house that is able to develop digital version of your game. So High Frontier was released. I guess you have planned for future digital version of games that you're currently working on.
Yes.
Is it secret, or is there anything
No,
that you
but
know?
we can give you the first, you're the first one where we officially say that Dino Dynasty is coming out as a PC version, so for your computer version of the game. So Dino Dynasty Evolved, it's called, and it's coming out in the spring 2026, so soon.
Oh, that's exciting. So then I will ask a question to Jan about this. Did you also work on the game design of the PC version? And what was the difference between your work developing the game for a board game and working on it as a video game?
Yeah, well, I have experience from video game design from before, both as an educator at the university, or I also developed the bachelor's degree program at Södertörn University in game development. But I also worked at Paradox, and I have, back in the day, I had a web company, and we always included games in our early web pages. I think we made the first browser-based strategy game ever, which was released in January 1998. We developed it during 1997, and that was a strategy game, but you played it in the browser. So I'm pretty proud about that one. But in this case, it's also we want the digital team to be able to do their own design decisions as well. So my role is more of, as I am for the whole company, creative director. I am more in the creative director role for the different digital projects. And as Besim hinted towards, we have two from before called Neanderthal and Greenland, but they were done by externals. And now we have started the internal team, so we have developed High Frontier, and also actually Pax Viking Junior, and then we're working on Dino Dynasty.
And it's interesting that you mentioned Paradox, because Paradox is doing a bit the opposite. Did you follow also their work, like how they are translating board games, like video games, into board games? Were you inspired by what they did, or what was your reception of them going the other way around?
To start off with, their biggest product, Europa Universalis, was a board game from the beginning, then turned into a digital game. Then they have taken this digital game into a board game. To be honest, I worked at Paradox with something that was related to, there was an idea of making their grand strategy games as mobile apps. And I was a team lead and designer for those projects for various reasons internally, which was about their publishing services combined. I won't go into it, but it panned out to be, they chose a different direction. And then eventually I instead went into doing board games on my own in Ion. But I think I'm can't say this for sure, but the approach I had in doing this, where it was like to design it for mobile apps, also together with Johan at one of the lead for their internal studio PDX. So it wasn't my idea entirely, but the idea there was to kind of take their games and design them as board games, mainly in order to find how to simplify them so they work in an app. But there was also, and maybe mostly from my as a brainchild, to say let's do them, also publish them as board games. Then I left Paradox, and then a few years later they published them as board games. So I think I was pretty involved in actually making those early, or those versions they have done so far, not making them per se, other than we were part of designing. So the transition to board games might have been somehow planted as a seed
In
by
the
me,
making
or
by then.
yeah, in the making of it, I was kind of involved in planting that seed. But the first one, one of the first one that came was Crusader Kings, and that game was done by Free League, but they also asked us, and we ended up helping them quite a lot. So I'm a co-designer on that game, and Besim helped them with the production process and so forth.
So you actually had some form of relationship with them in making, their video games into board games. And you mentioned mobile apps. That's also something that I was wondering about, because you're starting to make video games, but of your more complex game, but you're also making simplified version of your board games. And I was wondering, could those become mobile apps in the future? Is it something that you're considering to also like an area of gaming that you're thinking to explore? Because it's like business wise, it is really big also. And I was wondering if it's something that Iron Game Design is thinking about entering also.
Yeah, I mean, yes. So both the first game, Neanderthal and Greenland, are mobile apps first, and then we made PC versions of those apps. Same thing with High Frontier. High Frontier is a mobile app, and we have not reduced it. So that's really a accomplishment of sorts, that you have this arguably going from reviews, as you know, in Board Game Geek, the most complex board game in the world, and we've taken it without reducing almost any features into a mobile app for your mobile phone. You can also play it on PC, and we're working now on the cross-platform play things, which yeah. And then whereas when we went to PAX Viking Junior, for example, then we did it not a complete yes, you're not playing. You can play PAX Viking Junior there, but it's a lot of other stuff around it because it's more of a kids game. Whereas the Dino Dynasty is coming this spring, and as Besim said during the spring, it's a Kickstarter coming for it, I think in March or April. So you can look out for that. That's also first, I would say. But that one is also a different one. So we're trying different ways of doing it. In that one, you're not playing the board games per se. That one is instead a 3D explorer and base management game.
Maybe one last question to wrap up our discussion, and that's more like a more general production update. I was wondering, Besime, so what's coming up next with Ion Games? What are the games that are expected to be released soon beyond the MinIon Games that we already talked about, and what can we expect in the first few quarters of 2026?
So we will have, I already mentioned, so Dino Dynasty Evolved, the digital version, will come in Kickstarter in February. So that's coming up. And then we have one new board game that we're working on called Fifth Dimension. It's a role-playing board game, and that's the only new launch we have. And then we are catching up with production. So we will do Maleficium and reprints of Pax Viking and Pax Renaissance are coming in the first 2 quarters. And then we're catching up with Fluffy Frontier, Smarter Than a Monkey. So we're continuing doing a lot of production. And we have released a lot of games are now in stock that we have done previously. So that's what's happening in the coming first years.
And also, we maybe should mention that we are Phil is working on module 6 for High Frontier, as well as module 2 for Arrival.
Ooh, that's gonna get a lot of people excited, I think. The High Frontier has been on my want-to play list for quite a while, but even if I play war games, I've always been scared by High Frontier. Maybe I shouldn't,
No,
but
you shouldn't. You should.
Yeah.
I mean, the first, if you want, you can try to do it yourself. But if you feel like you want a little help with the first step, we can set up a tabletop simulator and teach you the first parts, and then you can get going.
I think we should do a teach and play of High Frontier because I believe that a lot of people are excited by the idea of the game. They feel compelled by it, and it's kind of a modern classic in a way in its style, especially with all the modules. And you've got always discussions of people discussing which modules they prefer to integrate in their game and everything. So there is clearly an active community, but I think there is a lot of people watching from the sidelines and thinking, should I get into it, and being worried because it feels so big but at the same time so exciting. So maybe having some content to get people to do that first step in that direction would be exciting. And I know that I would love to do it because it's a game that I've been excited about for quite a while, but worried about for some reason. Maybe I shouldn't, but let's get on something then. I wanted to thank both of you for taking the time talking to me about the updates on what's happening at Ion Game Design. A lot of exciting stuff as usual, so that's really cool. Personally, I think Maleficium is one of the ones that I'm really excited about for next year, so looking forward to that. And well, I hope to talk about it in the future with one of you or the designer. We'll figure it out, but it's always great to have you on. So thanks to both of you, and speak soon.
The designer from Maleficium is me, but also Björn, so maybe we can loop him in as well. But
yeah, that would be perfect.